The Jets beat the Bears this past weekend 31-10, and the Jets finally, for the first time all year, they were not held back by their quarterback. That's because they made a change at quarterback. They benched Zach Wilson. They started Mike White. Mike White was 22 for 28 passing, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. It was glorious. It was fun to watch, and it made me never want to watch Zach Wilson play ever again. I think I was already tired of Zach Wilson, but I was like, I'm trying to preach patience. I'm trying to be kind. I'm trying to see, like, he's young, he's learning. And then I watched Mike White do what he did. And I'm like, well, now that's pretty damning. Like, you cannot make any more excuses for Zach Wilson when the backup quarterback clearly is just better and more successful and executes the offense at a higher level and is more patient, makes better decisions. The Jets won. And they won because they had a quarterback who finally played well and threw 3 touchdowns and wasn't making crazy, horrible mistakes. And Mike White had 0 turnovers. It was beautiful to see, quite frankly. And what we saw on Sunday against Chicago is what the Jets offense was supposed to look like all year long. Garrett Wilson looks like an incredible receiver. He's a first-round receiver out of Ohio State. Dude had 5 catches for 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. This Jets team is ready to win. They lost to the Patriots last week when their defense played lights out. The offense did nothing. They lost on a crazy special teams play. And the one reason I've said before to give up early on a young quarterback is when either you find it, number one is when you find a better option at quarterback. If you find a better option, I think of when Arizona had a first-round pick, Josh Rosen, but then they had the opportunity to draft Kyler Murray number 1 overall, and they didn't stick with Josh Rosen. They said, Kyler's better. We're going to go with the better option, even though we haven't really given Josh Rosen enough time to properly develop. So either you find a better option at quarterback, or another reason to give up on a young quarterback early on in their career is a lack of maturity. And after that Patriots game last week, Zach Wilson did the inexcusable, which is fail to take accountability for the loss. And I think he lost the locker room. I think the locker room was like, really, dude? You don't think you let us down? We held the Patriots to 3 points and we lost. That's on you. He's completed 9 passes in the NFL. That's horrible. It's like 9 for 22, something like that. It was insanely bad. It was less than 10. I think 9 for 22. Don't quote me on that. Zach Wilson not only looks immature, but the Jets also found a better option. You got an immature quarterback, Zach Wilson. Mike White is a better option, so you got both things working out right now. This is not the first time either that Mike White has replaced Zach Wilson and looked really good. Last year, he threw for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and beat Cincinnati. And the Bengals, by the way, that same team went on to play in the Super Bowl. So I don't want to see Zach Wilson come back anytime soon. I am so happy to see what Mike White can do. It's been I think the Jets are on the up and up. I think that Mike LaFleur, their offensive coordinator, isn't perfect. But, man, Robert Saleh is an awesome coach. They've drafted really well for years. They've built a really good football team. I had high expectations for the Jets this year. And yet, Zach Wilson hasn't been it. And it's painful. They drafted him really early on. It's like the number 2 overall pick. You drafted Zach Wilson to be your franchise quarterback. But if Mike White's the answer, he's the answer. Right now, Mike White's playing better. And Zach Wilson has been horrible this year. His numbers have been, there's a graphic out there where, Zach Wilson's numbers have been worse than Jamarcus Russell's, which that's insane. I didn't realize how bad it was till I saw it on paper. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it really is that terrible. From where I'm sitting today, Mike White deserves a couple games with the Jets. And if he slips up and has a bad game or two, I'm fine with that because it can't be worse than what Zach Wilson's been doing all year. And it's a disservice to the rest of your organization. The guys who work really hard every week, the guys who were drafted, the guys who are, doing great work on defense, you can't lose because your quarterback isn't good enough. And I think Mike White right now clearly is a better option than Zach Wilson. And, look, it was a rainy day on Sunday. It was cold and rainy, and Mike White threw the ball really well in the rain. Again, Mike White, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, 22 for 28 passing, 0 turnovers. Mike White, he's QB1 of the Jets, and he should be for the foreseeable future. There's not that many games left, and I want to see the year play out with Mike White. And if Mike White gets hurt, maybe we can go back to Zach Wilson. But I have lost. I think it's a mix of Zach Wilson's lack of maturity paired with clearly the Jets have a better option. When you have a better option and you're losing, when you should be winning and you're letting the rest of your team down, you got to stick with Mike White, who's a better option at quarterback. Now, it's worth mentioning, Bears quarterback Justin Fields did not play on Sunday. I think that does make the Jets win a little less impressive. They beat Trevor Siemian. Ooh, they beat a backup quarterback. But, and look, Chicago's a 3-win team. I do also want to give credit to Chicago. Chicago realizing we're a 3-win football team. They were 3-8 going in. They're 3-9 now. I'm glad Chicago did let Justin Fields rest. Don't play him when he's banged up. It's a lost year. You don't want to risk the long-term future of your quarterback and his health long-term for this game. In fact, Chicago losing actually gives them a better draft pick. But I think you walk away from Chicago's season right now and say, it's been a great year because we found out Justin Fields is the quarterback of the future for us. And I'll tell you what, I bet the Jets wished they had drafted Justin Fields instead of Zach Wilson. And it's a painful one in New York. The Jets are looking at their quarterback going, man, Sam Darnold. Well, they went from Sanchez, Geno Smith, who's playing well, by the way, but took a long time, to Sam Darnold, who Sam Darnold won, by the way, on Sunday, to now Zach Wilson. And it's been a painful turn of events for the Jets. And I think the least painful option right now at quarterback is Mike White. And let's see what that guy can do because he's played well before. I don't think Mike White really has ever actually had an entire organization behind him, committed to him, believing in him. And I want to see what Mike White looks like when he's not on a short leash. When it's different to play quarterback when every mistake gets amplified and you have no room to screw up because if you screw up, they're going to bench you. If Mike White knows, hey, you're going to have a couple games here. Let's see what you can do. If you make a mistake, keep going. Stay confident. Keep firing away. I want to see Mike White play with the confidence knowing that he's not one play away from losing his job and going back to the bench. And that thought really excites me because clearly Mike White executes the offense at a much higher level than Zach Wilson.